This episode is brought to you by Washington, D.C. When you hear Washington, you probably think politics, paperwork, power lunches, but you haven't experienced D.C. There's more museums per square mile than any place in the country. It's also where important decisions are made, like which Michelin-starred restaurant to try first. You know Washington, now experience D.C. To plan your trip today, visit washington.org.
Let's talk about Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Fantasy is the best and easiest place to play fantasy football for big cash prizes. On Underdog Fantasy, you just draft. No need to worry about waivers, lineups, or injuries. Underdog handles it all for you. Go to UnderdogFantasy.com or download the app, draft a season-long best ball team, and that's it. No in-season management. They're going to give you $25 when you sign up, so you can take a free shot at a $1 million grand prize in their fantasy football tournament. That's right. You can get a free $25 in bonus cash on Underdog Fantasy if you use the code Keim, K-E-I-M, when you make your first deposit. I love Underdog because it's just so easy to use. The mobile app is slick. The website is user-friendly. So do what I've been doing. Go to UnderdogFantasy.com, join a league, draft a team, and that's it. You're good for the season. Remember, go to UnderdogFantasy.com, the App Store, or the Google Play Store. Sign up with the code Keim, K-E-I-M, and get a free $25 in bonus cash.
Empire.
Hello and welcome to my podcast. Today, the voice of the Washington football team, Bram Weinstein, and I discuss Washington's 22-13 preseason opening loss to the New England Patriots. We ignore the game result and focus on the growth and development of various players. From Chase Young to Dustin Hopkins to Jarrett Patterson and Taylor Heineke, we go over it all. Why Bram thinks the coaches should be pretty pleased with the defense. Don't forget, you can read my work on ESPN.com. I'll have a story up Friday about receiver Terry McLaurin, why he'll have another excellent season and could be even more dangerous. And look for yet another Underdog Fantasy Draft on Sunday night. I'll tweet out a reminder during the day and hold the draft at night. And now, Bram and I talk about the preseason opener. All right, Bram, well, preseason game one in the books. Let's just start off with your quick, instant reaction to what you saw tonight.
I think the defense got tested because New England is clearly in the midst of a quarterback competition and wanted Mac Jones to play a ton, left the starting tackles out there even when the Washington second team came in. And so I think overall, and I didn't get a chance to hear what Ron Rivera said, but I think in the end, he's going to be pretty happy with what the defense did, considering that New England, I think, offensively was taking this very seriously tonight.
I think that's a good point.
Yeah. I mean, outside of that, sure, would they have liked to have done more on offense? I'm sure they would have. But there was a lot of maneuvering around. And the other thing I thought was really interesting was the juggling of the offensive line, which does say to me that they're uncertain who their starters are going to be at left guard and right tackle. And the fact that they left Cosmi out there for as long as they did and flipped Schweitzer and Flowers around as much as they did tells me that they're really still thinking through some positions.
It's funny you say that too, because Schweitzer has been working there primarily at left guard, except for when Sheriff was out for a few days. And it looked like he was kind of filling ahead. And Flowers was playing a lot more than I thought with that first unit. I think Cosmi, they want him in there because he needs experience.
Yeah.
I don't think I don't look at Cornelius Lucas beating him out. And I don't think Sadiq Charles is ready to beat him out either. I think they're trying to give him experience, but left guard will be interesting. And I think that's the one.
And in the same way that, New England decided Mac Jones needs a lot of reps tonight, Washington decided Sam Cosmi did.
Yeah.
So, it's interesting. We've had a year off of the preseason, and I was frankly surprised how much New England played their starters tonight. I'm just not accustomed to that. In the past, you get into these rhythms I actually think it ended up being a really good test for the defense, how much they threw all those guys out there.
Yes. And let's still go to the defense because, I mean, obviously the guy who jumps out is Chase Young. And to me, what stands out, we saw the big play. And what I liked about that play is, his hands are really good. We saw him use his hands. One of the things he worked on this offseason was being more fluid and being able to dip and get that corner. He didn't dip like a Von Miller, but he was able to get the corner and maintain and get to Cam Newton. But I like the other plays that he makes. The 2nd and 20 where he gets in the play, he's kind of obstructed on the play. Shield gets rid of the tight end, goes and gets on there for a 3-yard stop on a 2nd and long. Just a nice effort, speed play. He draws a holding penalty. Defended that screen well because of his awareness. So the guy just continues to show up, and it certainly looked like he's going to be Chase Young this year too.
Yeah, and listen, he's getting a lot of attention. I saw, the piece that Kimberly A. Martin did for SportsCenter.
Yep.
So he's getting a tremendous amount of attention, and he doesn't shy away from it. And he says he wants to be great, and he says he's putting all the accolades and all that stuff behind him. And I think tonight was a very good sign of that. I mean, even in a limited performance, he's getting better. He should be their Myles Garrett. He should be a massively disruptive player. And it happened very, very quickly. So it's a good sign. But again, what did he play? A series and a half, whatever it is. It's not a lot to go off of. But if you're going off first impressions or maybe second impression with him, because first impression was great last year, second impression looks even better, even in the limited amount of time that we saw him tonight.
But in that limited amount of time, he did a lot. He showed everything. He showed the hustle. He showed, the awareness. He showed his ability to pressure, and it's what he showed last year. I'm still a little bit – I want to see more from the run defense, and I want to see them be tested more in that area because I want to see, is that really something they've taken care of?
Yeah, I think that's something to watch. And this was, again, at least when Cam Newton is out there, that's a pretty good team to test it up against. I mean, they went into a shell last year and became a rush offense almost exclusively. And, it'll be very interesting. And this is their issues to deal with. It'll be very interesting to see who their quarterback is week 1, because I think it's very like they're in a true open competition right now.
Yes.
And that's a very different offense if Mac Jones is the quarterback as opposed to Cam Newton, where they're not going to throw the ball as much as they would. But I'm with you. And, let's see what happens. The next couple of weeks, are they going to get tested enough with that? I don't know. Is Joe Burrow going to play? I don't know, so I don't know what they're going to see the rest of the way here.
Well, and I think the other part of that is what I want to see is how does Jamin Davis develop throughout this summer, because didn't see a whole lot tonight that says that he's going to be that instant impact guy. I mean, he's going to play right away. We know that. And Logan Paulson, when I had him on the podcast, talked about him still seeing that, that adjustment period. And maybe there's so much going on in his head that you can't play the way you want just yet. What did you see from him?
Yeah, I think there was a reason why he was out there with the second team. I think there's a reason for that. Now, they're not as deep at that position as they are at other positions. So he has to play.
Right.
To what degree he's going to play, I don't know, but he has to play. And so I think he falls in the category of someone who needs the reps. I don't think it was a coincidence that all of a sudden week 2 of camp, he and John Bostic are playing together, because I do think that there's some coaching on the field that is occurring with a very established, very smart, cerebral coach candidate type player who is out there with him. And he needs the time. Like D'Angelo was in the booth and he was saying, what you don't want somebody out there is thinking the whole time,
right? Especially
someone like him. He's so athletic. So it'll be, I'll be interested to hear what Ron Rivera has to say about it, because they haven't said much, but it is clear that he needs more time, more seasoning, but he's got another month and he is a rookie, and there's a lot on him, obviously.
Yeah. And I look at him almost in the same way as a rookie quarterback there's a lot more pressure on a rookie quarterback, but with what they're asking him to do, I think they're putting him in a spot where it's going to take him longer to develop, because because he does have to think a lot out there. And I felt like you did see him thinking a lot about where he needs to be, or maybe not being as aggressive as he needs to be or can be because of that. And I think because of that. But again, that's why I say with him, it's a different process than it is for a lot of other guys. But he's such a big key that he needs to really develop for them if the defense wants to take that next step, because they are facing some really good offenses this year.
Yeah, well, he has to play. There's kind of no way around that. He has to play. So let's see, how do they help him? I think that's the way I would kind of look at it at this point. How do they help him? And seeing Bostic next to him was a sign to me that they're going to help him on the field. And the good news for him is, he doesn't have to be the stud savior.
No, he doesn't.
Have that. They already have that in front of him. So I do think if there's a grace period for him or a learning period for him, when the time comes that he feels really comfortable, he's very athletic. He looks and feels the part, but it is clear that he's swimming a little bit right now, and that's okay. I don't think that's a terrible thing, and I don't think it means it's going to collapse their defense or anything like that. But if you're anticipating him showing up and being Devin White overnight, I think we need to kind of slow the expectations down.
Yeah, and I don't view him in that category anyway. Just he only started the 1 year at Kentucky, so there's a lot that he has to pick up on still, and that's why I say with him it is an absolute process. Listen, the other guy and Ron Rivera said afterward he's not concerned about Dustin Hopkins, but there were 2 misses tonight.
Yeah.
And I felt like on the second one that maybe there was some hesitation. It looked like he hesitated for a minute because the snap. And I'm not blaming the snap. I'm just saying it looked like Hopkins hesitated. Bottom line is he missed it. What's your level of concern?
Well, I will say this. From the practice from a week ago, there were back-to-back bad snaps by Cameron Cheeseman and I didn't, want to make much of it, but it happened. Yeah. And then here we are, first preseason game, and the first miss, that was not a great snap. And they were talking to Cheeseman after that one. And then I agree on the second one, at least on first glance, it looked like he just hooked it and hit it bad. But I think this is not just Hopkins, actually. I think it's a whole battery.
It's the operation.
It is. I think it's a whole battery problem that they're going to have to clearly deal with. But look, I mean, Hopkins did not have a great year last year. So I think a lot of people are going to look at this and go, well, they extended this guy and they expect him to be better, and they're going to look, and that hook looked really bad. But I do think this is, to me, at least initially, this is a whole operation problem, and they're going to have to fix those snaps, get everybody comfortable, and get that thing back into a fluid motion, because last year it was on Hopkins. Sundberg was clockwork.
Right.
Them. Cheeseman is not so far. And again, it's early, but he hasn't been. He wasn't in that practice, and he certainly wasn't on that first kick tonight. So hopefully there's something to figure out here, because it doesn't matter that they're missing now, but it is, I am worried about it, honestly.
Yeah.
This is now, after the practice, I was like, all right, I noticed it. After a first preseason game, now you go, you're going to lose games because of this.
Yeah.
So hopefully they get it figured out.
Well, and that's the thing here. When you look at them and you look at the schedule, there's not going to be a lot of margin for error. So you can't, no pun intended, but you can't punt on that operation. And that's my concern, is it's deeper than just Hopkins. And I know, like you, and I will say, he's got to get better. I mean, he definitely does. I'm not going to disagree with anybody who says that. But if you brought another kicker in here right now and you keep having the bad snaps, it's going to still be
it won't matter.
Yeah. And even during the week.
My gut here is it's the whole operation right now. That's why I don't want to really go too crazy on Hopkins here, because that second one looked really bad. There was a total hitch, and he totally hooked it.
Yeah.
And that, to me, actually comes down to confidence that the ball is going to be placed correctly, partially because of the snap. That's what really bothered me about it.
Bram, I had the same thought on this, on that kick, is that it was more that he didn't trust the ball was going to get down, because it wasn't like the snap was so bad that it should have thrown him off that much. But I thought it was telling, and I had the same feeling that you did, that it was a confidence that the ball wasn't going to get – that's not on Trust's way. I just don't think he trusted the snap. And whether
I don't either.
And that's, like I said, and that's why I say the problem goes deeper in this tonight. It exposes something deeper than just, hey, get a new kicker in here. I think if you're right, if Sundberg were here and those misses, you got to get somebody. And I will say too, with Hopkins, if he doesn't do better, then I think that everybody wants competition for him. His competition is every other kicker who gets cut, because they'll bring someone in if they need to. Ron Rivera doesn't need to be wedded to this guy. He didn't bring him in here. He was here. So, I don't think that it's going to be some lifetime pass here for Hopkins, but that operation has to get better.
Oh, no doubt about it. They spent a draft pick on the snapper. They spent a draft pick on him. So, so he's supposed to be an answer for them for a long time at this position. And it's not to say that he won't be, but something's up, and we need to keep an eye on it.
And for people wondering about Nick Sundberg, he was still, when I communicated with him about a few weeks ago, he was still kind of recovering from that injury that he had last year. And so I would not, at this point, if people are wondering about that, that's why he's not in anybody's camp.
This episode is brought to you by HP. Whenever you do your best thinking, the HP Spectre X360 is ready when inspiration strikes. With power save for battery life and focus mode to multitask, you can do your best thinking whenever and wherever it happens. You can't always schedule when and where you might have a brilliant thought, whether it's in the morning or before bed, when you're at your computer or away from it. Thinking can happen anywhere and anytime. The HP Spectre X360 2-in-1 convertible PC with Windows 10 saves battery life for whenever an idea hits you. HP Spectre X360, a more thoughtful laptop.
Hey folks, would you like free tickets for the preseason game against the Baltimore Ravens? Well, you're in luck, because our sponsor, Prosper Insurance, is giving a ticket to anyone who gets a home and auto quote with them. You don't even have to buy a policy to get the free ticket, although the savings will absolutely make you want to switch today. Finding the right insurance can be a pain, but Prosper makes the process easy, all while providing great service and advice. Their licensed advisors shop the market with top companies like Allstate, Nationwide, Progressive, Travelers, and more to find you the perfect coverage at a great rate, which is just a few of the many reasons why Prosper has over 1,000 5-star reviews on Google. You have nothing to lose. Simply visit prosper.insurance/Keim to get your quote and a free ticket to the Baltimore preseason game on August 28th. That's prosper.insurance/Keim, Keim, no.com. Get ready to feel good about your insurance. I want to go to Jaret Patterson, because I enjoy watching that kid play, and he brings a lot of energy to the field. What did you see tonight, Tim?
It's funny. We were talking before the game, and D'Angelo loves him. And he was saying to me, like, I wouldn't play him that much because I wouldn't want people to see how good he is. And, I don't think that because he's an undrafted free agent, everybody had their shot 7 times at him or more, and they didn't take him. So I don't think there's this huge risk of, oh, my God, everyone missed, and if you cut him, he won't make it through waivers, even though I do think they have to think about it. He's got the look of one of these guys that could be a major contributor for you, whether it's, I don't know about now, but in the not too distant future. He's got this build that was noticeable at first. Not only is he pretty fast, but he's got that low center of gravity, that kind of, that high, big thigh, very good core build. He looks like a dangerous player for them. And I see a future for him, I guess would be the best way I could put it. Like, I don't think J.D. McKissic is in any danger of losing his job. So will this guy play very much? Probably not. But J.D. McKissic is also in the last year of his contract, and we haven't heard much about him getting an extension. So they might be test running this guy for future third down running back for them.
I thought when they signed him, I thought that's what the whole point of it was to because McKissic's in the last year. And if you don't sign, you got this kid you can develop in that third down back. Now you're ready to go with him. And I like the way he catches the ball. You know what else I liked with him? There's a couple of things. First of all, I think he plays bigger than he is. And when he runs the ball, but he also on 2 runs, he made guys miss. And there were some of those holes he had were really nice holes. There was, I think Flower, I can't remember if it was Flowers, had a nice block on a pool action, but two different times going around the left end makes the linebacker miss with a quick little shuffle. Going out on the catch outside makes a guy miss and gets extra yards. That's what I really liked from him.
Yeah, no, I thought he's very shifty. He made people miss. They're starting to get a plethora of guys who are capable of doing things like this. But it's the preseason, and Antonio Gibson's their guy, pretty good through camp as kind of the backup running back right now. I don't see much of a role for him at this point, but he's one of those you stock away like Sammis Reyes, Dax Milne, him, and you go, these are guys in development, and in a year or two, you're going to be seeing a lot of them.
Absolutely. And I think the other thing with Patterson that we're going to have to see is the pass protection stuff, blitz pickups, those kind of things. That's a huge part of that game. And guys like, and watching him on the other field during practice, I think I like his approach, but I think he needs experience with it because he's going to have to get used to going against linebackers. How do you attack them, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I think there's a lot that he still has to learn. And he's not bumping Peyton Barber off the roster. Barber's Barber's their short yardage guy, and they really like him. And Barber's quicker this summer than he looked last year because he lost weight.
Yes.
So he's not going to do that. If he makes it, it's as a fourth back. The other thing, though, is if he makes it as a fourth back, then you're going to go less somewhere else. So you may lose.
That's right.
Who are you willing to lose as a receiver to keep that fourth back? And I will say, like, the receivers, the guys fighting for those last spots, none of them really, really jumped out that well. Gandy Golden didn't jump out. He had the end zone, but.
It's funny. All along, we've been sitting here going, okay, which receivers are they going to dump, or how many receivers are they going to keep? You could make a case if Patterson can catch the ball well, that keeping 4 running backs and less receivers actually makes sense too. So maybe there is a discussion about that. Maybe they're not going to keep 7 wide receivers. Maybe they will just keep 6, put a couple others on the practice squad. Like there's a lot of possibilities here. The bottom line is Patterson can make plays. I think they already knew that. Like they think they got a steal in signing him.
Yeah.
So, do they utilize him this year? Are they worried about cutting him? I don't know. I don't know if I'd go that far.
Yeah. And I think there's, and I also think, guys like Harmon and Gandy Golden, and can you sneak them on the practice squad if you want to keep them? Because there are things that they like about those guys and, DeAndre Carter. I mean, I've liked what I've seen from Steven Sims this summer, so we'll see there. And I thought the return game was pretty good too. Milne and Carter both had good returns. And that's how one of those guys is going to get on the roster because of the return game if they make it. So, quarterback play. What'd you think? Let's start with Ryan Fitzpatrick.
I thought, a couple nice plays. The catch by Thomas was like, when I saw him do that, like that pirouette almost to move his body, box the guy out, turn around. It's almost like this guy's played tight end his whole life. I know. Really athletic play for someone his size who's converted. Let's forget that he converted to play this play. McLaurin getting a big play. I'm looking at big numbers this year because I don't think he played enough for me to warrant giving too big of an opinion on it. His numbers look fine. They didn't score. Oh, well, it was a couple of drives. I didn't see anything incredible and I didn't see anything wrong, I guess would be the way to put it.
Right. And what I liked on the ball to Thomas, there's a couple of things with that. And to McLaurin, he throws the guy, he really trusts those guys. And you can see that already. And he's willing to put them in spots where they can go make a play because he trusts that they can do it. He also throws a very catchable ball. And I think Taylor Heineke does as well. But I think those are some of the things I saw from Fitzpatrick. And I think those jump out. And there's all sorts of things that we're going to see as we go on in a real game. I think for right now with Fitzpatrick, you just kind of want to see, as Rivera said, you want to see a clean operation. And I think we kind of saw that. So what'd you think?
I think so.
What'd you think of Heineke?
My gut tells me the guy's a gamer, not a practice player. And I think that showed up again here because you and I have been out there a lot, and we've basically come to the conclusion this is not a quarterback competition anymore.
No, and I still
nothing. I don't think so either. But there's nothing happening in practice at all that would change your mind whatsoever. And then the guy goes out on the field, and he clearly has an interesting feel for the game.
Oh yeah.
And in some cases, he does dangerous things, and in some cases, he makes incredible plays. And so he and Fitzpatrick, I think, are semi-similar in that way. Clearly, when the lights go on, this is not too big for him. And I think it's all clearly making sense. Like when the lights go on, this guy's ready to go. Now, does that mean he ends up winning the job? No, probably not. But I do think it's reassuring that after watching him in practice where you're like, oh man, like this guy's is really not competing anymore. The second he's on the field though, you go, I get it. Like I get what they like about him. He's got moxie. He's got confidence. He's not scared. I have a funny feeling he'd throw a lot of interceptions over the course of a 17-game season, and he'd probably win a lot of games with his legs and his arm and his guts. So
if he holds up,
that's how I kind of see him. Like he and Fitzpatrick actually, I think, are quite similar. I think they are. I think they're risk takers. And there's something about that style of play that is clearly really attractive to Rivera and Turner. Kyle Allen, same way. He'll put his body on the line. He's a risk taker. They like gunslingers. They do.
They do. And I think the things that I liked about Heineke tonight, I thought what I like is that he gets out of the pocket when he needs to. And some guys look to escape right away. I don't feel like he does. And I thought like he showed some good patience on, can't remember which ball it was, but he hung on the pocket on a couple of throws. And I liked the throw to Patterson. I felt like he was patient in the pocket. He got out when he needed to. He extended the play, and he hit Patterson on that little diving catch inside the 5. And I just thought that was
Patterson
really nice
came back for that.
Correct.
Patterson came back for that one.
He did.
Yeah.
And I felt like that was a really good play by Heineke just because it showed a lot of qualities that I think are mature. And so I think there's when in practice, and Rivera brought this up the other day, that you're not out there. They don't want the quarterbacks running around a ton. They want them to get rid of the ball. They don't want to have the quarterbacks running. And we saw that when Griffin was here. There were times even in 7-on-7, he was running way too much, which is a horrible sign. And they don't want that. And so you don't always see what a guy can do and the effect he can have on a game with his legs. And I think we saw that again and I think Fitzpatrick can use his legs too. I just think Heineke.
He can. I think he likes to.
Yeah.
I think he likes to.
He does.
I mean, it's the funny part of it when and that really had dawned on me at that point. When Rivera said it, I'm like, it rings so true. You're not going to see the best of Heineke until he's in a game and his instincts take over.
Right.
Because we're not letting his instincts take over in practice. And the interesting part of that is, like, well, if that's what he's best at, why are you constraining him? And that would be an interesting thing to hear. Why do you practice this way if you know that the best of him is to let loose?
And I think, and I would say if I'm a coach, I want, first of all, everybody's got to pass throw from the pocket at some point. So you got to use that.
Right.
I think, and you need to work on the timing of a play, but I think to a degree, you've got to have some periods where you can say, now you can go freelance. And they do that. It's not like they always stay in the pocket, because he definitely gets outside sometimes. It's just that they don't want it a lot because it doesn't help them. But it does speak to what he can do in a game. And again, just like I said with Fitzpatrick, I've always felt that Heineke throws a catchable ball. And
yes.
He's got to throw in rhythm. He's got to do all those things, but he throws a catchable ball. Wasn't crazy about the throw to Hemingway. That ball was a dangerous throw, but
yes.
Otherwise, catchable balls. So, I think we saw what we probably felt you'd see from him in the first preseason game. I would like to, this is not a quarterback competition, but I would like to see him against starters for a couple games in the preseason, just to see more of that effect against starters.
You mean him starting the game?
Yeah, I'd like to see, or at least even playing against some of the starters in with a longer stretch.
Play, because because, Cincinnati or Baltimore have to comply with that, which is part of the problem.
Of course they would.
Yeah.
That's not, I don't expect that to happen. It's just that I'd like to see for a longer period of time the effect that he has in that, in the game where he's facing, the starters.
Yeah, I agree. I'm also with you on a main point, which is like Fitzpatrick and Heineke are gunslingers, and they're very good outside the pocket, and they can move and extend plays. And that's why, it's Fitzmagic and whatever this is now, Penn and Teller, for, whatever this is, these two, magical type quarterbacks. But, the reality is, and I agree with you, in the end, the best quarterbacks can make a play from the pocket when they have to. And not every play can be extended and become backyard football. And this is why Tom Brady's the greatest quarterback of all time, because when it matters most, when he's just standing in there and he's about to get hit, he slices you to death with a perfect throw to somebody. And if you're not capable of doing that, you can't win at the highest level. And so I agree. So maybe that's what practice is about, knowing that in the end, you can't recreate, football. You've got to be able to make the big time play from the pocket. And it's got to be one of these two doing it for them.
Yeah. And I think, obviously with Fitzpatrick, I'm curious to see too how he and McLaurin develop, because they clearly have a connection already. And I think it's going to be fun to watch that too. So anything else jump out you tonight, Bram?
Not really. I mean, I thought overall, I think in the end, I need to really look at it, but I do really think in the end that Ron Rivera and Jack Del Rio ought to be pretty happy with the defensive stats, because New England left their guys out there for a long time. It mattered to them. They walk out in the third quarter and go up tempo on purpose.
Yeah.
They really tried to test them. And that group, the starters and largely, the main backups gave up 9 points through that. That's pretty good. I mean, that's really good. So yeah. I think they ought to be relatively happy with that.
Yeah, I agree. I think because if I'm New England, I want to see what Mac Jones can do in those situations. But that teams don't prepare for that kind of stuff right now. So that's an on-the-fly communication type situation, and you're right, they did pretty well against it. So, well, there we go. Preseason number 1 is in the books, and so it's fun to watch football again with people in the stands. That's what I know.
That crowd, I got to give New England this too. That was the first time they've had a crowd since Tom Brady's last game as a Patriot, 2019. They never had a crowd last year. Those people showed up. It was big. It was loud. Standing ovation, Mac Jones. And they were largely there till the end. I mean, when do you see that in the preseason? So
you don't.
Clearly people miss football. It was really nice to have a crowd again. And I got to give it to their crowd. Like, that ain't Brady playing quarterback for them anymore. And they were there start to finish.
There you go. Bram, thanks a lot, man.
Yep.
That's it for this episode. I'll be back with another one on Sunday when Washington returns to practice. Thanks to Bram for joining me, and thank you, as always, for tuning in. Again, look for another fantasy draft on Underdog Fantasy Sunday night. We'll talk to you next time.